Hi there, I'm Otman from JubailUniversity College. Our lecture today is very important, so please give it due attention. In fact, it is the most important one through the whole course, since it includes some useful information that you need for writing up the final draft of your term paper. If you remember, some time ago, in one of our previous lectures, we have discussed references and quotations, namely in Unit 1.8 in your textbook. And there we have mentioned some reference systems, namely Harvard reference system, which is used for social science and business, Vancouver, which is commonly employed in medicine and science, MLA, which is used for humanities, and by the way, this one is very similar to Harvard, and the APA, the American one, which is used for social science. Here in JubailUniversity College, we have different academic disciplines or majors. I mean, some of our students are doing engineering, others are doing business, computer science, interior design, and so on. So in order to avoid the confusion caused by using different reference systems, we're gonna concentrate on the APA reference systems as our formal reference systems in writing academic papers. Therefore, I would like you to concentrate carefully on what we are going to do today. Now, this is not the first time, of course, we talk about references. We have mentioned it casually when we talk about plagiarism. If you remember in the definition of plagiarism, which is that plagiarism is when you try to take someone else's ideas or words without giving it credit or acknowledgement. And in order to do that, we can avoid it simply by using references or citations. So the main purpose of referencing is, as you can see on the screen here, is to identify or to cite other people's ideas and information within your essay or your term paper, and indicate the sources of the citations. I mean, all the in-text citations that you're going to use within your term paper should be linked to the list of references which you're going to have at the end of your term paper. So let's see, how can we do this? When you want to start citing sources within your paper, you have to concentrate on this is within the text itself, which you call it in-text citation. You have to concentrate on these three things here. You have to mention the author's name and the year of publication, if there is a date for publication. Otherwise, if there is no date, you could just use ND, and you have to mention the page number. So the in-text citation usually includes short or brief information that you're going to elaborate or explain later on at the end of your work in the list of references, where you can give the five most important parts that we talked about some time ago. Now let's try to have a look. How can you do short? How can you cite short quotations? Of course, you could cite. You can use citation with quotation, or citation with a summary or paraphrasing, and so on. Let's start with citing short quotations. I mean, by short quotations, of course, we mean quotations which are fewer than 40 words. So if you want to include quotations in your sentence, you start with, there are two possible ways. You could start with the citation, then you have to use a linking verb which link between your quotation and the citation here. Then you put the page number. So this is a quotation which is mentioned between two quotation marks here, and you start with the citation, which includes the author's name here, the author's family name plus the publication date, and you put the quotation here. Then after that, you have to mention the page number in between the two parentheses. This is one way. Or otherwise, you can do it in a different way by mentioning the author's name in parentheses. I mean, not only the author's name, but the author's name and the publication date plus the page number at the end of your quotations. In that way, you start with an introductory phrase like this one here, according to one researcher. Then you put your quotation here. After your quotation, you keep all the information, I mean the citation, which include the author's name, the publication date, and the page number in between two parentheses. This is when you want to quote short, when you want to cite short quotations. Okay. Now, what about long quotations? I mean, 40 quotations which have 40 or more words. This one is very simple. You can simply do it by using block format, in which all the lines of the quotations are indented. I mean, you have to leave some indentation here. If your original text starts from this line here, then pay attention to the space, I mean the indentation left here in this area here. So don't use quotation marks in that case. I mean, if you have longer quotations, you don't have to use quotation marks, and simply try to indent or leave some indentation, which is supposed to be something like half an inch, as you can see it here, half an inch from the margin. And the example here is very clear. You see here, this is the in-text citation, Wang et al. This is in-text citation. Then of course you're going to use a reporting verb, or a verb that you're going to link your quotation with the citation. Then you put your citation here, and at the end you put the page number, so you can read it carefully and concentrate on how it works. Here I would like you to notice that the full stop here, as you can see it, is before the parenthesis. I mean, this is when you have longer quotations. Okay. Now let's try to have a look at how you could cite summaries and or paraphrases. Now, when you want to use your own words, I mean when you want to paraphrase, or when you want to summarize, you must cite the original author and year without making any change, of course. And it's also recommended to include a page number or a paragraph number to help an interested reader to locate the relevant page. So in summarizing or paraphrasing statement taken from another source, you could start like this one: Lee, 2007. This is an in-text citation here, as you can see it, starting from the author's name, then the publication date and the page number are mentioned here. Then this is a verb that you use to introduce your summary or your paraphrase. Then you are going to write your summary or paraphrasing. This is one way. I mean, you can start with the quotation, sorry, the citation at the beginning here, or you could keep the citation at the end of your summary or paraphrasing. You see, you start like this: according to one researcher. You see, we talk about it in anonymously here, according to one researcher. Then you put your paraphrasing or summary, and at the end you keep the in-text citation, and all the information should be mentioned in between two parentheses. I mean, the author's name followed by a comma, publication date, page number, and the full stop should be after the parentheses. And here you have to be very careful about such tiny details like using uppercase or lowercase. Here, when it comes to page number, you have to pay attention that it should be written in a lowercase, I mean small letter, rather than a capital letter. Okay. Now, what about citing information if no page number are available? If the source has no page number, but it says a paragraph number or numbers, then use that paragraph number preceded by the abbreviation para. You see, the first part of paragraph, para, in the citation in the parentheses. Now, if the document has no page paragraph number or paragraph number, but does have headings, then use the headings. And of course the headings should be capitalized, as in this example here. So for example, according to the World Health Organization 2010, here there is no page number indicated, therefore you have to mention the you have to use the heading at the beginning, World Health Organization, and you put your summary or whatever. So the headings of that part from which you took the information is this one here: fostering health security, and para 1. This means it is taken from paragraph 1 of that text. And as I have mentioned earlier, you have to pay attention to the uppercase used here in paragraph. I mean, to avoid the confusion between page number and paragraph. You say para 1 means paragraph 1. I mean, this text is taken from paragraph 1 in that document. So if the source has no headings, what should we do? In that case, just count the paragraphs and include the paragraph number, parentheses. For example, if it's 7, just write para 7. Okay. Now, what about citing a source found or cited in another source? I mean, you are not the only person who could get access to that information, but you get it through someone else who got it from another author. So in that case, for example, you may write about research that someone else has done, but you are unable to track down the original research report. So in the sample below that you are going to see here, the research is done by Pathers here, is discussed in a journal article written by Lee, and you only have access to Lee. I mean, you could not get access to the original author or writer. So in that case, include only Lee's article in your reference list. So for example, a 2000 years review by this is a guy that you haven't got access to him, found little empirical research on students critical thinking, cited in Lee. This means that you did not get direct access to the original author or source, but you got it through Lee. So you have to be careful about this point here, and you have to be careful about details like putting even the word cited in, then the in-text citation Lee 2007. Everything here must be done in between the two parentheses, exactly as you can see it here on the screen. Now let's try to have a summary of citation format within your paper. This will help you to deal with things in a very short and brief way that you can easily remember. So we have the type of citation here. For example, if you are going to cite something which has just one author, then there are two possible ways, as I have told you, or as you have seen earlier. You can name the authors within the sentence, as you can see it here, Lee 2007. This is in-text citation. State it, then you put the quotation here and the page number. This is one way. Or you can use parentheses at the end of the sentence. I mean, you have to include all the information about the in-text citation, including the author's name, the publication date, and the page number. All of this should be mentioned in between the parentheses here. And this is what we have explained in our first part of the lecture. So either to start by the in-text citation here, and if you start by the in-text citation, the author's name should be outside the bracket, parentheses. Then only the publication date should be between two parentheses, and after you put your quotation, you have to mention the page number also in between two parentheses. This is one way. Or you can put your quotations after starting with an introductory phrase. Then the in-text citation, I mean the whole information must be mentioned between the two parentheses, as you can see them here, and you have to pay attention to the special use of the commas here, and be careful about using a lowercase p for page number. Now if you have two authors, then you could say, for example, Smith and Jones, and be careful about using and here as a word, you see. And then you have to mention the publication date, then the introductory phrase that links your quotation with the citation, found that, and you put your quotation in between the quotation marks and the page number. So it's just like the previous one, but the only thing here, we have two authors, you see, Smith and Jones. And here, of course, you have to mention the author's family name and also the second author's family name rather than their first names. This is one way. Or you could do it the other way. I mean, you can use your summary or citation or quotation. Then after that, the in-text citation could be mentioned at the end. And in this one here, I would like you to pay attention, I mean special attention, to the way the author's name are written. The two author's name are written here in this way by using the symbol and rather than the word and. This is used if you are going to mention the in-text citation. Sorry, if you are going to start with the in-text citation. But if you want to use the in-text citation at the end of your quotation, then make sure that when it comes to the names of the authors, you have to use the symbol and rather than the word. Okay? Now, what about if you have three authors? In that case, I mean, this three or more, by the way. So, say Simpson, I mean, you have to mention the first author's name. Then you use the symbol et al. Here, then the publication date, and after the reporting verb here, you are going to put your quotation, then you put the page number, just like the previous one. The only difference is if you have more than two authors, we use this abbreviation et al. Here, which we mentioned that it's a Latin word which is used for having more than or three authors and more or more. In you have another option. You can put your quotation or summary or paraphrasing or whatever. Then after that, you mention the in-text citation here, Simpson et al. And make sure that after the dot or the period here, you put a comma, then the publication date and the page number. And make sure that the full stop here is put after the parenthesis, not in between them. Now, what about if you have a group of authors? Sorry, a group author. I mean, the text is taken from an organization or an institution like a college or university or a research center or whatever. In that case, you mention that the name of that institution, whatsoever it is. For example, it could be JubailUniversity College, for example, Gazette, and you have to mention the publication date and use a verb to link your in-text citation within the quotation, reported that, then you put it here, and after that it must be followed by the page number. The reverse is acceptable. If you want to put the quotation, then the in-text citation must be given at the end of your quotation. There is just one slight difference, that all the information about the citation, including the institution's name here and the publication date and the page number, must be mentioned in between the two parentheses, unlike the publication date, which is mentioned immediately after the name of the institution in the first type. Okay, if you have a group author, I mean no page number, use web page. In this case, you have to use web page headings and paragraph numbers. So for example, if you took some information from a text taken from the World Health Organization document, which was published in the year 2010, you can start with that and pay attention to the publication date and quotation. Then you put the name of, the information concerning that institution, as you can see it here. And you do the opposite. You see, start with your quotation, then in that case, in the second option, you have to mention the name of the organization, the publication date, and everything in between the two parentheses. If there is no author, then use the title of the article in quotation marks in place of the author's last name. You see, you have to use the title of the article itself, since we have no author's name here. So for example, the article, then you have to mention the title of the article itself here. Then after that, you are going to put your quotation, and you have to mention the publication date immediately after the name of the title, and you say reported that, then you put the quotation you took from that document. Then the page number must be mentioned between two parentheses. The same thing happened. You start with your quotation. I mean, if you want to choose the other way, then the name of the article in between two quotation marks, and this is very important. Your summary or paraphrase is here. Then you mention the article's name in or title in between two quotation marks, and you have to remember that the double quotation marks here should be after the comma. Then after that, you put the publication date and the page number here. If there is no date available, simply use ND as an abbreviation for no date. So you can see it here, Busan. ND means there is no publication date. Claim that, then you put your quotation mark with followed by the page number here. And you do it the other way. Start with the quotation, then the in-text citation as mentioned here, but this time the author name itself and the symbol ND plus the page number are all mentioned in between two quotation marks. Now let's try to see how you can summarize references at the end of your paper. If you remember, we said that in-text citations should directly be linked to the list of references at the end of your work, and there in that part, if you still remember, we said that there are 5 important things that we have to concentrate on. I mean, the in-text citations should directly be linked to the list of references, in which you have to mention the full author's name or complete information, including the author's name, first name, and the initial of his first name and the family name, the title of the journal or the article or the book or whatever, then the place of publication and the publication date and things like this. All these details should be fully mentioned or explained in the list of references. So in the list of references, you are going to include more information about what you have already mentioned briefly in your in-text citation. So in order to deal with references, let's try to classify it into 3 parts. How can we write references when we use information from articles, and when we use information from books, or when we use information taken from book chapters? Let's start with books because it's easier to understand. Then after that, you can move to the first one here. If in your in-text citation you refer to something which you took from a book, then remember this book could be written either by one author or by 2 authors or with 3 or more authors, or it could be a translated version of something like that or whatever. And when you want to give full details, then remember, for book titles, okay, before that you do it this way. You start with the author's family name. This is family name, followed by the initial of the first name, then the publication date, which is mentioned between 2 parentheses. Then the name of, or yes, the name of the book is written in italics. You see, this italicized part here is the name of the book. So whether it's a book or a journal article or a periodical or whatever it is, it must be written in italics. Then after that, if there is a publication or a publisher, you have to mention the publisher after this one here. So this is if the book is written by one author. If there are two authors, then you start with the family name of the first author and the initials of his first name, or if he has a middle name, then you put and, or use the symbol and. Then you do the same. I mean, you start with the family name of the second author, followed by the initial of his first name and the publication date. Then this part, which is written in italics here, is the name of the book. And if it has an edition, you have to state the edition. Is it the 4th or the 5th or the 6th, and so on. So this is the 5th edition. We just write it like this, the 5th edition, and we use the abbreviation ed here. Then after that, you can mention the publisher. If the book is written by 3 or more authors, then you do the same. You mention the first author's family name, his initial, comma, then the same, the family name of the author, followed by his middle and, I mean, the initials of his first and middle name. Then you put and after that you mention the third author exactly in the same way. And after that you put the publication date. Of course, the 3 authors have published that book in or at the same time. Then after that you put the name of the book, or you write the name of the book, which is, or which must be written in italics, as you can see it here. And then after that there is the publication date here. Now if it is, I mean, if the book is translated, for example, an English translation of a non-English book, then you start with the author's name here, the publication date, then the name of the book here, and after that, if the book has a title and a subtitle, you give the subtitle here. Then you have to mention the translators. I mean, who has translated that book. You see, so J. Benham this is not the authors of the name, this is the translator. So the translator name, or the person who has translated that book, should be mentioned before the publisher, or the publisher's name here. So this is what we can say about books. And because of time, we're going to move directly to this. Now, before we move to articles, let's try to see this part here, part C, because it is directly relevant to B, so we can do it. If you have a chapter taken from a book, I mean, just like what we did in the previous one, but you want to indicate the title of the chapter. First of all, let's agree that the book's name must be written in italics. You see, it must be written in italics. So here, for example, Prague, J, blah, blah, blah. This is the author's name and the publication date here. And this is the the title of the book, which is always written in italics. And before the title of the book, you have to write the chapter's title, but this one should be written in regular way. I mean, you don't have to italicize it, you see. Then after that, you have to mention the page number. Sorry, here we have PP here. So these are, or this is the set of the page numbers in which the article here is written, you see. And after that, you have to mention the publication, the publisher. So if you have one chapter in a book written by 2 authors, and there are 2 editors, then you have to be careful here. First of all, let's identify what is the book. This is a book title here, Blackwell Handbook of blah blah blah. This is the name of the book. This book here is written by these 2 authors. Sorry, this author here. You see, there's one chapter author. I mean, the author, there's just one author who wrote an article in that book, and the title of the article is this one here: Identify Development During Adolescence. Now, this is the chapter written in this book here. This chapter has been edited by 2 guys. You see, G.R. Adams, this is one editor, and the other one is M.D. Brzezinski. And we know that these are editors simply because of using this symbol here, or this abbreviation, ED S, and this must be mentioned in between two parentheses. So please give it special attention. Now, what about if you have one chapter author and three editors? As we did in the previous one, you have to identify the title of the book itself. This is the book, Handbook of Personality. The book here has a heading and a subheading. The subheading here is Theory and Research. You see? Now, this book is written by, this is the author's name, as you can see it here. And this is the publication date. And this is the article taken from that book. But this article here, the psychological unconscious, this article has been edited by three editors. The first one is O.P. John, the second one is R.W. Robbins, and the third one is L.A. Pevins. These are the editors. So if there are three, just put them like this one. And it goes on like this. If you have, for example, two chapter authors and there are two editors, again, the easiest way is to identify the book itself. This is the title of the book. Contemporary Language Motivation. It has, of course, a title and a subtitle here, 6 years since Gardner and Lambert. This is the title of the book, and the chapter taken from that book is this one here. You see, this is the name of, the title of the chapter taken from that book, which is written in italics here. And here there are two editors. The first one is A.H. Al-Houri, and by the way, this is our course director here in JubailUniversity College. This is the first editor, and the second editor is P.D.M. McIntyre. The name is difficult for me to pronounce, I don't know. And we know that these are editors simply because this is followed by eds. Then make sure that the period is in between the two brackets, followed with or by a comma here. Then, of course, after that you can mention other information. Here you have the publication, the PP here stands for the page numbers for the chapter that has been edited by these two editors from page 80 to 105, and this is the publisher. You see? Now, what about if you have three chapter authors and one editor? I mean, there is first of all, let's identify the book. What's the title of the book? French Applied Linguistics. This is the name or the title of the book, and the authors are three here. You see, this is the first author, the second author, and this is the third one. Remember, before the third one, don't use and, use a symbol here. Then after that, you put the publication date. Then after this one, immediately you find the title of the article, which is supposed to be followed by the editor's name. So the editor's name here is D. Evian. This is the editor. You see, so one editor. The article is written by three authors, but it has been edited by one author here, and this one should be followed by the abbreviation ED. Then after that, you put the title of the book here and the publisher at the end, as you can see it here. Okay, when you go and look at this at ease, you can easily remember and concentrate on, because we are doing it through presentation, so we're not going to spend much more time on it. You can just go and concentrate on these things by looking at them carefully. Now let's come to the first part, which is when you want to mention references taken from articles, journals or periodicals or newspapers or magazines or newsletters, whatever. Here you have to pay attention to these points. For article titles, only the first word is the first word after, sorry, this one is repeated, only the first word after a colon, and all proper nouns are capitalized. I mean, you have to be careful about capitalization, as you are going to see it through the examples given here. For journal titles, all major words, I mean the keywords, are capitalized. We're going to see these three examples. For web pages, use regular font size, regular font for titles. I mean, don't use italics. And for websites, use italics. So you can see this through these examples here. So for example, here you have this journal. Of course, as we have mentioned earlier about books, the name of the journal is just like the name of the book, must be written in italics. Then before that, if there is an article, and remember, this time it's not a chapter, it's an article. So this one here, online collaborative case study learning, this is an article which was published in this journal by this author here. This is the author's name. You see, in the same way it's done before. Then after that, you have to mention the volume, and sorry, the issue number and the volume number of the article. So you can easily distinguish, for example, an article published in a journal from a chapter in a book by paying attention to these numbers here. If you have these two numbers mentioned sequentially, one of them is 37, for example, followed by another number which is mentioned in between two brackets. In that case, this is an article taken from a journal or a periodical or a newspaper or whatever. You see, because the first number here indicates the what do you call it, the issue number and the volume, in which month and which week and so on. Then after that, you have the range of pages which include the article mentioned there, and after that you can find the website or the link where this for example journal article could be found. Now, how pay attention, because in some students might not be able to distinguish a chapter in a book from an article in a journal. In if it is a book, for example, if it's a book and this book is followed by something like 5th edition, here we use the ordinal numbers: 5th, 3rd, 2nd, 4th, 10th, 11th, and so on. We use ordinal numbers. But in articles, we use cardinal numbers. You see, we don't use th, or that can show. Okay, so this is a difference between them. And here you have usually two numbers. One of them is followed by another number between two brackets. Now, if it is a newspaper article with an author, then you can see the author's name is given here in the beginning. Then this is publication date. Then the title of the article, followed by the name of the journal. And after that, you put, for example, the website as you copy it from the source there. You don't have to worry about it, how to organize the things here. If there is a URL, you just copy it from its source. Now, if you have a newspaper article and the author is unknown, you don't know the author who wrote that article, you start by the article's title itself. Here, ancient tool makers discovered fair treatment, and then you mention the publication date here, then the name of or the title of the journal, and after that you put the link or the web page given here. So here there is no mention of the author, as you can see it here. It is unauthorized article. You just start by mentioning the name, sorry, the title of the article, and in which I mean, you have to mention the publication date, then the name of that journal or periodical or whatever, and after that you put the rest of the information. If there is an article taken from a web page with an author but there is no date, look, with an author, I mean the author is well known, you just start by the author's name, family name, followed by his initial, then ND in between two brackets. You use this abbreviation to indicate that there is no date. So ND here indicates no date. Then you put the title of that article, which must be written in regular font. I mean, it must not be italicized. And if you don't know, for example, the paragraph number or whatever, if it has some subheadings, you can just write part 1, part 2, 3, whatever. Then after that, you have to put your web page or copy it as it is. Now, what about if there is an article in a web page and the author is unknown? Here we said the date is unknown. If there is no date, you say ND. There is an author's name here, but there is no date. So we write ND for undated articles taken there. But here it's the opposite. You know, for example, the publication, the date of publication, but you don't know the author's name. So in that case, you can start with the title of the article itself, then the publication date, followed by the publisher, which is University College, London. Then you put the web page as it is mentioned here. So this is what I would like you to concentrate on. And of course, you don't have to consider any other references because things might be confusing if you try to check other sources about referencing system, because as I have told you, there are so many actually there are several referencing systems. You don't have to bother yourself with all other referencing system. I just want you to concentrate on the APA reference system because this is the one that we are going to use in our term paper. So please don't consider any other reference system other than the one that we have mentioned in this lecture here. And to make things for you, to make things easier for you, we're going to provide you, inshallah, with an Arabic translated version for the APA, and inshallah you'll find it uploaded on your Blackboard account. So please concentrate on this document, which is very important. You will find it also in your Blackboard home page, so just check your account. And inshallah we'll provide you also with a sample or model exam in which we are going to clarify how references could be tested, and that would be sometime this week. And until then, I wish you all the best. Thank you.